Hello and welcome to my review of the Chaos Knights Abominant for Warhammer 40,000 from Games Workshop. Now, up until very recently, you could only pick up this brand new knight from the Chaos Knights army set. 2 weeks later, I'm pleased to announce that this is available separately, and the Knight Abominant box set is the new Chaos Knight box set. So whichever one you pick, the Rampager, the Desecrator or the Abominant, of course, you will be able to make the Abominant. What they've done is they've just thrown in all of those sprues into one kit, which sounds very, very familiar to what they did with the Knight Preceptor, the Canis Rex box set. I think you can make about 7 or 8 different Imperial Knights with that set. So that's fantastic news, that not only can you get this Knight separately, so close from release, but also that you can build at least 3 Knights from this set. If you've got spare parts from Imperial Knights, there's a possibility of you being able to build the Knight Despoiler, which is the one that has either a dual thermal cannon, dual battle cannon or dual Avenger Gatling cannon, with a top mounted like missile launcher or something like that, which is the only Questoris Knight that can have a carapace mounted weapon, so for maximum shootability. The format of this review, I'll have a look at the Chaos Knight close up. I'll go through all the spare parts, of which there are many. Then I'll go through some size comparisons with other Chaos Knights and Imperial Knights, things like that. And then finally we'll go through all of the rules for the Abominant, because they are pretty juicy, because this is the first Psyker Knight that we've ever had. No Cerastus or Mechanicum, or so this is quite a big thing to have a Psychic Knight. I mean, it does lose out on the old weapon department, put it that way, so there is a bit of a trade-off, I guess. But anyway, this set itself is a whopping 176 plastic components. To put that in perspective, Canis Rex Knight, the Imperial Knight box set, has 250 components. So yes, that's 74 components more than this set. It's considerable, especially as that Imperial set is cheaper. It's £5 cheaper, believe it or not. It's £100. But those Knights did come out quite a while ago, and this is brand new. Anyway, let's have a look at the model itself then. You're probably going to grill me in the comments. I'm used to it by now. I've glued everything. This is what I do. I don't do it on purpose just to annoy anyone. I do it just because that's just what I do. Okay, well, a little bit of a fib. I haven't glued the twisty, twirly Dr. Ock like tentacle things, or the heavy stubber. I've glued it at a angle, but not left to right, and the shield I have not glued, the head I haven't glued, so there's a bit of posability, I guess. It's a shame you can't like move the tail about. That would be quite cool. Speaking of, look at that tail. It's a knight with a tail. Never seen that before. It's quite groovy. It kind of makes me want to put the tail on the next one, the Rampager. I've made a decision now. I'm definitely going to get a third Chaos Knight, and it is going to be a Rampager. As much as I love the look of a Despoiler with 2 Avenger Gatling cannons, just having a Chaos Knight running full pelt at the enemy with a tail, and a claw and a chainsaw just looks amazing. Anyway, speaking of this knight, there's been a few things that have stayed the same from the Desecrator, and a few things that have changed. Obviously the leg pose has remained the same, the feet are the same, the armor plates are the same, the top carapace is the same, the exhausts are the same, and so are the shoulder pauldrons. And this chest armor, the whole of this body is the same, except for these little extra attachments, and speaking of which, you get you know, an extra sprue now that has the tail, it has these adornments, it has a couple of chains in, it has this new weapon, and it has a number of face plates with tusks, without tusks. It has a different front shield, and it has this beautiful Volkite cannon. Absolutely fantastic. And it has the one thing that I'm already getting grilled for. It has the you know, the psychic birds, the crows or whatever. For me, you know, I kind of get it in a way, that it would have like carrion birds or whatever on it, near it, around it. Oh yeah, this icon is new as well. But for me, knowing how birds work, you wouldn't expect them to just be, you know, on this. And I get why they are, because it's to do with the psychic powers, blah, blah, blah. But just looking at it from an outsider, you wouldn't necessarily know that. You just see a big stompy knight and you wonder why birds are on there and they're not being kind of scared away. Because this thing is moving. I want to have that sense of movement, and having birds on it just kind of makes it look as like a static figure, static pose. I didn't really want that. Completely optional. You can put spikes on there and stakes and things if you don't want to have the birds. If you don't want to have the birds. Anyway, that is the Abominant. Let me show you the spare parts. So they're right here in this baggie. So you get the Reaper chainsword. It's a nice Reaper chainsword. In fact, it's so nice, I've got 2 of them now and I haven't even used one of them on any of the knights. And this is one of the reasons why I need a rampager in my life. Because I've used the Desecrator sort of laser cannon on the Desecrator, obviously. You've got the claw, which I've used on the Desecrator. These are the birds, vultures, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, you've got some stake. You've got a different hatch for the canopy. This time it's all chained up. On the Desecrator it was not. Let's have a look at these different face plates then. So I think they were old. Got some cables, got some pistons even. That's for the Desecrator. That's the old shield. More birds. Here we go. Here's some more face plates. I think that's all of them. So, from what I can tell, these are the new ones and the one that I've put on with the big tusks. So I might go for this one, for the Rampager. I'm not a massive fan of this melted face one, unless you want to use it for Death Guard. I think these are the old school face plates. Definitely that one was, and I'll probably use that one for like a despoiler. I think that's new. I can't tell. It might have been the old style though, but again, I'm not a massive fan of that one. But anyway, they're the different heads. They're all the spare parts. As you can see, you get a fair chunk of them. Yes, just because I've glued mine doesn't mean that you shouldn't or can't, you know, magnetize the arms or the weapons. You know, these kits are £100 or so. You want to get as much value for money from them as possible, and also you can swap the weapons out and between them if you don't even magnetize them, if you just leave them loose. But I like my models sort of solid and stable and stoic, and that's the way I've built mine. So that was the spare parts. Let's have a look at some size comparisons. First up, I have another Chaos Knight, the Desecrator. It might be the pose, but the Abominant looks bigger, it looks chunkier. Not quite sure why. It might be the lighting, but it just looks chunkier. Might be because of the bigger weapons, but there you go. It's pretty much the same height. You've got the War Dog. This is the Carnivore. It would be great to accompany an Abominant with a number of War Dogs. Probably like carnivores or actually Stalkers, because then they give you a good balance of ranged weaponry and close combat, which, you know, the Abominant is a little bit lacking. Compared to other Chaos models, I've got a Forge Fiend here. You know, Forge Fiend used to be quite a large model, but now it's not even half the height of a Chaos Knight. And just for Space Marine purposes, here is a Chaos Chosen model. Chaos Chosen barely comes up to the knee, doesn't even come up to the knee of a Knight. So if you're thinking about getting a Knight, it's going to tower over most of your Chaos Space Marine force. It's going to be the biggest model that you own, and a real centerpiece. So yes, they are £100, but you know, you've got a focal point of your whole Chaos army, especially if you don't want to spend the, you know, almost £700 now on a Chaos Reaver Titan. As nice as they look, that is a huge amount of money, and you can buy, you know, many armies multiple times. So just spending £100 for like a centerpiece for your army is still a good way to go. Just because I have some other models nearby, I wanted to do some more size comparisons just with some Imperial models. So I've got my Knight Paladin right here. It's, again, it seems taller, seems chunkier than the Knight Paladin. Which is great. It's everything I wanted. I wanted the Chaos Knights to be a bit bigger, a bit chunkier than the Imperial Knight counterparts. And I hope, I really do hope, we get some kind of, you know, Dark Mechanicum, Chaosified Cerastus Knights, because they would just look so cool, even more twisted and deformed than, you know, these. But anyway, that's the Imperial Knight. Just because I've got a Contemptor just there, and then a Leviathan as well. That's how big these Knights stack up, even next to a Leviathan, and of course it'd be bigger than a Telemon as well, but only just. And finally, the last size comparison I always like to make, just with the three usual models. So we've got a Space Marine, Slight Marbo, and a Primaris. So again, Primaris barely comes up to the knee. So once again, my example is that it would be one of your tallest models that you own. Yeah, one of the most expensive as well, I would think. And this is my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules for the Chaos Knight Abominant, and I will be focusing on the psychic powers, because let's face it, that's one of the reasons why you're going to pick up this Chaos Knight. It is a Lord of War choice. It's a power points cost of 22, and it's a points cost of 430 points, making it one of the most expensive Knights. It's not as pricey as the Knight Tyrant, obviously, at 585, and depending on what weapons you go for the Despoiler, you know, you could really rack up the points with a Despoiler. Put it this way, if you have dual Despoiler Gatling cannons and a Ruin Spear rocket pod, you're then looking at 535 points for a Knight Despoiler, which is insane, but that is how I would run mine. So the Knight Abominant then, it's a vehicle, so the number of wounds it has remaining affects its stat line. It starts off with 24 wounds, which is the same number of wounds as all the other Questoris, Traitoris Knights, and when it has 13 or more wounds remaining, its movement speed is 10 inches, its weapon skill, ballistic skill are 3+, strength and toughness are 8, 3 attacks, leadership 9 and a save of 3+. When it has between 7 and 12 wounds remaining, its movement speed drops to 8 inches and weapon skill and ballistic skill drop to 4+, and between 1 to 6 wounds remaining, movement speed drops all the way down to 6 inches and its weapon skill and ballistic skill are only 5+. It's the typical speed of a Knight. The Rampager is the fastest Questoris for Chaos. It's 12 inches. A Knight Abominant is equipped with a Diabolus Heavy Stubber, Volkite Combustor, Bale Mace, Electro Scourge, Titanic Feet. So the Diabolus Heavy Stubber, you'll be pleased to know, is the same as the one on the War Dogs, which means it's better than a Cognis 1, or is it? It's not Assault 4, but it's a 36-inch range, heavy 4, strength 5, AP 0, and a damage of 1. The Volkite Combustor, which looks immense. It's a 30-inch range, heavy 6, strength 10. AP is only -1 though, damage is 3. However, when you get wound rolls of 6s, it inflicts 3 mortal wounds on the target in addition to any normal damage, and that's each time an attack is made. I'm not being silly. Let's just say hypothetically you get 6 6s. Let's just say all of the 6 shots hit and all 6 get 6s. You're then looking at 18 mortal wounds. That's almost enough to wipe out a full unit of Primaris. And then you factor in the damage of 3 that it has. The Bale Mace, which is its tail, it's a strength of the user, which is still 8, AP -2 and damage 2. Each time the bearer fights, it makes D3 additional attacks with this weapon. So that's nice. You get an extra, you know, potentially 3 strength 8, AP -2 attacks. You've got the Titanic Feet, which is again strength 8, AP -2, damage 2. So it's the same strength as the feet. So it's the same profile as the feet, but it gets that additional D3 attacks with it. And then finally, the whip coil thing, the Electro Scourge. I'm just pronouncing it Scourge now because it's SCOURGE. The strength of the user, bit of a letdown. I would have liked at least strength 10 or something. AP -2. Okay, that's the same armor penetration as the feet. And then the damage of 3. Okay, that's a little bit better. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, you make 3 hit rolls instead of 1. That's not too bad, but it's offset by the poor number of attacks that the Abominant has of 3. So that means it's only going to get 9 attacks. When we compare that to, say, I don't know, the Knight Rampager, who has a baseline of 5 attacks, so 2 more attacks base, and then it uses its Reaper Chainsword, you can have 15 armor penetration -3 attacks there with a weapon skill of 2+. So it's definitely not a close combat monster. You know, it can deal with some light things in close combat, but I would say it's prone to getting bogged down, but it has the super heavy walker ability, which means it can move over and through troops and not get bogged down. So have at them, that's what I say. Abilities: Iron Shields, super heavy walker, Harbingers of Dread. Explodes: when the model is destroyed, you roll 1d6 before removing it from play. On a 6, it explodes and each unit within 2d6 suffers d6 mortal wounds. Psyker: now this is where you're spending your points. You're not really spending your points on the Volkite because it's 30-inch range and it's quite a low AP. You're not spending it on the Electro Scourge because you're only getting your 9 attacks at the same strength as your feet. You're getting it for the psychic abilities. This model can attempt to manifest 2 psychic powers in your psychic phase and attempt to deny 1 psychic power in your opponent's psychic phase. It knows Smite and 2 psychic powers from the Warp Storm discipline. Let's have a look at these Warp Storm disciplines right now. So they work similarly to other psychic powers, whereby you can pick them, or you can roll a d6 to randomly generate them. I'll go through them all. So the first one is Winds of the Warp. It's a blessing aura ability, charge value of 6, and if manifested until the start of your next psychic phase, each time this psyker loses a wound, you roll 1d6. On a 5+, that wound is not lost. So it's a bit basically like a feel no pain. If the result of the psychic test was 8 or more, while a friendly War Dog class model is within 6 inches of the psyker, each time that model you loses a wound, roll 1d6. On a 6, that wound is not lost. Yeah, I would have preferred that to be like 4+ for the War Dog instead of worse, but it is what it is. It's nice that you can repair your knights. However, you must remember they did completely do away with the Forge Shrine, so you can't just go and repair your knights in like a repair bay, but it's still pretty cool that you can repair them. that might work well with Warpsmiths or the Lord Discordant. Vortex Terror number 2, Vortex Terrors. It's a malediction, has a warp charge value of 5. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of this psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, you subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic of models in that unit, and each time that unit is selected to shoot or fight, it must first take a dread test. If the test is failed, then until the end of the current phase, reduce the weapon skill and ballistic skill characteristics of models in that enemy unit by 1. Okay, that's not too bad. Number 3, the Storm Malevolent. It's a malediction, has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of the psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, each time a friendly Chaos Knights model makes a melee attack against that unit, you add 1 to the attack's wound roll. On an unmodified wound roll of 6, the target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to the normal damage. That's pretty good, especially if you're coupling this with carnivores or even a rampager. A maximum of 3 mortal wounds can be inflicted on each enemy unit per phase as the result of this psychic power. Number 4, Cyclonic Lamentation. It's a Witchfire, has a warp charge value of 6, and if manifested, every enemy unit within 12 inches of the psyker must take a dread test. Each unit that fails this test suffers 1 mortal wound. If the result of the psychic test was 11+, each unit that fails their subsequent dread test instead suffers D3 mortal wounds. Quite close range that one though, 12 inches, especially when its movement is only 10 inches. Number 5, Coruscating Hate. Witchfire. It's a Witchfire and it has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, the closest enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to this psyker suffers D3 mortal wounds. That's quite nice. Then roll 1d6. On a 2 to 3, the closest other enemy unit within 6 inches and visible to that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 4+, it suffers D3 mortal wound. That's pretty nice. The final one, Spite Squall. It's a malediction, has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of this psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, that unit cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend. Keep a Spite Squall tally for that unit, adding 1 to the tally each time a model in that unit is destroyed. At the end of each phase, if that unit is still on the battlefield, roll 1d6 for each mark on its Spite Squall tally. For each roll of 5+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. The unit's Spite Squall tally is reset to 0 at the end of each phase. So there you go. That's all of the Warp Storm disciplines. Pretty nice. There's some decent buffs there and some nice Witchfire maledictions. It's up to you how you want to use this. I mean, clearly it's best to use this knight with a couple of War Dogs or another Chaos Knight. I'll just go through the keywords. Chaos, Chaos Knights, Vehicle, Titanic, Core, Terror Shades, Abhorrent Class, Psyker, Knight, Abominant. So there you go. That is my review of the Knight Abominant. More than anything, I just think it looks really cool with the Volkite Combustor. Looking how cool this looks, and the Rampager, and the Desecrator, and the new War Dogs, I can only hope we get some kind of upgrade sprue or something for Knight Tyrants, or they release a third variant that would have the Knight Tyrant, that would have the Castellan, that would have the Knight Tyrant sprues in there. I can only hope, but that would be pretty cool if we got that at some point. What do you guys think of the Knight Abominant? Please do put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Fear not, or do fear, depending on whether the psychic test was passed. There are 2 more videos of this Chaos Knight release to go. The next one will be the review of this whole Chaos Knights army set, and the final video will be a comparison between the Chaos Knights Codex, the old Chaos Knights Codex, and a little comparison with the new Imperial Knight Codex. Please do put your thoughts and opinions on this Knight Abhorrent down below. As always, thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. Death to the False Emperor.